Am I the a-hole for inviting my neighbor's husband over for coffee and a playdate? His wife accused me of pursuing him, and my husband thinks she was right to confront me. So, about a year ago, a couple, Emily, F30s, and Jake, M30s, moved into the house next to ours, 30s. Emily and I were both pregnant at the time, with due dates a few weeks apart. We would run into each other in the neighborhood or out on the street, and eventually became friendly. We texted occasionally to check in on each other during our pregnancies, and our husbands became friends as well. For some context, Emily, she had a very difficult pregnancy and was on bed rest for the last month of her pregnancy before she gave birth. They moved away from their support system for Jake's job and they didn't have any family nearby, so I would sometimes drop off meals when I was cooking for my own family. Emily had her own baby about a month before I had mine. After the babies were born, we didn't see much of each other, and I invited her over a few times to go for walks with the babies, but she always declined, saying the baby was fussy or napping. I figured she was just overwhelmed as a first-time mom. Our husbands, though, they continued to see each other occasionally during this time. Then last week, I was out walking with my baby when I ran into Jake, who was always out walking his baby. We ended up walking together and chatting for about 30 minutes. Our chat, it did not include anything personal. We talked about the babies, our jobs, our summer plans. When we got back to our street, the babies, they had woken up, so as we passed my house, I asked if he wanted to come in for a coffee and let the babies play together. He thanked me for the invite and declined, saying he needed to get home because he has errands to run. A few days later, Emily invited me over for a playdate, and I accepted and even offered to bring some food for the babies because she had mentioned being nervous about introducing non-pureed foods. And while the babies were playing, she suddenly said, "Jake told me you went for a walk together last week?" And I said, "Yeah, we ran into each other while we were out with the babies." And then she asked, "Why did you invite him back to your house?" And I was caught off guard and tried to explain that the babies had woken up and I had meant it as a playdate. She responded that she didn't know what I was playing at, but her husband was off limits and uninterested in case I had any ideas. And I was in shock, so I froze up for a couple of minutes. When I was able to respond, I told her it was bizarre that she would interpret a walk with her husband and an invitation for coffee and a baby playdate as anything other than innocent. I also told her that my husband was working from home that day and was in the house. I also said that I hope she heals from whatever happened in her life that made her view something so innocent as a threat. She laughed in my face and said, "Rich, coming from you, just because your husband treats you like dirt doesn't make it okay for you to go after my husband." And my jaw dropped, and I just picked up my baby and I left. I effing hate myself for not giving her a piece of my mind and leaving without saying anything. But I felt like I had just been slapped. Now my husband and I have been having some serious issues, and when I got home I told him what happened and asked him if he has said anything about our problems to Jake. He swore that he hasn't, but I'm not sure I believe him because how else would Emily know anything? My husband then said Emily was right, that it was inappropriate to invite Jake in, and my husband is now mad at me over the whole thing. Am I the a-hole? Edit. So, I discovered my husband was cheating on me 2 months ago. Edit number 2. So, I am now going through some of the comments and I think I may not have explained this part well enough. Emily didn't avoid hanging out with me or us. The four of us with our kids and their baby have spent time together on multiple occasions going to the park. We have had them over. They have had us over. But it was always the four of us and the kids. My older child really likes Emily and Jake. They have always been nice to us. Jake and my husband, they hang out together alone sometimes, but Emily has always had a reason not to hang out alone with me. The other day when she invited me over was the first time we'd had a solo play date for the babies. All right, everybody, so I've been reading these types of stories for years now. What are we at, 3-4 years? 3 years sounds about right. So, when did I suspect that he was cheating? It was during the conversation at the end there, when she started talking to the husband. I was like, I feel like he's cheating. And, because again, I've been reading these for 3 years, and lo and behold, cheating for 2 months. Not surprised, but unfortunate nonetheless. We don't have all the details here about, whatever hardships they have in their relationship. Is this related to the baby? Is it not? I'm not quite sure. We don't know. But I thought he was blowing up a little bit too much, and I think the other lady next door was blowing up a little bit too much. Were the husband and the wife next door, were they sleeping with each other? I don't know. Opie didn't say so, but I don't know, weird behavior all around, and it seems like we got an answer as to the weird behavior, but let's keep reading the next update. New update. Trigger warning, domestic violence. So 2 months ago, I made another post on a different sub, once again seeking outside perspective about a very awkward situation that took place. I came back to post an update, and I think it's a way for me to process what has happened since then. But shortly after my last post, my husband admitted that he had confided in Jake about his infidelity. He said he felt guilty and remorseful and wanted to talk it out with a friend, and he claimed he didn't realize Jake would tell Emily and that she would throw our marriage struggles in my face the way she did. He apologized for discussing the issues without my consent and promised to distance himself from them. He also apologized again for the affair, which he swore was over. He told me the affair partner was a coworker who had since left the company. He promised he wanted to change and rebuild our relationship, so I forgave him and gave him another chance. Again, things they had been going well. My husband was attentive and loving. He was helping more at home, spending more time with the kids, and showing me affection. For a moment, it really felt like my husband had returned to me. In hindsight, though, I think it was love bombing. Last week, then, I had a medical appointment that I needed to attend alone, so my husband stayed home with our baby. I was anxious because he had never been alone with the baby for that long, and I wasn't sure he would be able to put him down for his nap. And while I was sitting in the waiting room, I logged into our baby camera just to check that the baby had gone down okay. And that's when everything began to unravel. The baby was asleep in his crib, and my husband was walking out of the room. Then I heard a woman's voice asking if the baby was finally asleep. My husband replied confirming that he was, and I couldn't see the woman because she was outside the camera's view, but her voice, it was familiar. I thought it sounded like Emily from next door. After my appointment, I checked our Ring doorbell recording from that day, and there she was. Emily had knocked on our door, and my husband let her in minutes after I left for my appointment, and she left an hour and a half later. I was in complete shock. When I got home, I didn't confront my husband. I was tired of his lies and wanted the truth before saying anything. And I went through our doorbell camera history and found many more instances of Emily coming over while I was gone. In one video, I saw them kissing on our front porch. I saved everything. The next day, I messaged Jake and I told him I needed to speak with them because I had bad news about my husband and his wife that I believed he deserved to know. He didn't reply. Shortly afterwards, my husband called me furious. Jake had forwarded my messages to him and warned him that I was trying to frame him and Emily. And he went quiet and then ended up the call. Later that evening, he came home late and intoxicated. He was angry and blamed me for destroying our lives and for trying to expose the affair. I yelled at him and then said I want a divorce, and he lost it. He hit me, he kicked me, he punched me, and he even tried to choke me. Somehow I managed to get away from him. My 4-year-old woke up because of the screaming and commotion, so I grabbed her and ran into the bedroom and locked the door. My daughter was terrified and clinging to me while my husband banged and kicked the door, threatening to break it down. Luckily, I had my phone with me and I called 911. The rest of the night, it was a blur. My husband was arrested close to midnight on a Tuesday. The entire street woke up to the sirens and confrontation with the police. I was taken to the hospital afterwards because I was bleeding and covered in bruises. Our neighborhood was shocked. We had always been the friendly, polite neighbors, and no one expected this could happen behind closed doors. But I was done protecting my husband's image. He destroyed our life, not me. When neighbors asked what happened, I told them the truth. He hurt me after I discovered he was cheating on me with Emily. A few days later, Jake reached out to me. He was apologetic and felt responsible for not believing when I tried to warn him. Jake told me my husband had been confiding in him about our marriage problems. According to Jake, my husband had told him that I was the one who cheated in the past, that I was unstable because of my PPD and PPA, and that I had been hurting our children. None of that is true. Jake also told me he had confided in my husband about problems in his own marriage. Looking back, it seems my husband used those vulnerabilities and the information Jake shared with him to get closer to Emily. After everything happened, I finally called my family and I told them the truth. They knew I had been struggling and distant, but they thought it was because of the PPD. They had no idea how much I had actually been carrying alone. I told them about the affair, the threats, the manipulation, and how scared and exhausted I had become. They are in my corner, and they're trying to help me now figure out my next steps. I feel like a weight has been lifted off of me for the first time in a long time, and I don't feel alone. Now, here are some relevant comments. One user said, I hope Emily loses her marriage, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know what Jake's plans are, but after she sent me that text, I sent him the images I had saved of Emily coming to my house at odd times and the video of them kissing. He has all the information now to make an informed informed decision. At the very least, I am sure Emily is having a really hard time because she hasn't shown her face around the neighborhood since last Wednesday. Then user 2 commented and said, "Whatever, Emily can go to hell and so can Jake. The sheer audacity of the guy to reach out to you in any other way than on his knees in shame." So, my husband, he successfully manipulated both me and Jake, maybe even Emily, who knows. But Jake seemed very remorseful and apologetic in the text message. He blamed himself for what happened. And yeah, if he hadn't forwarded my message, this may not have happened. But like I told Jake, my husband made the choice to physically assault me, and no one is to blame for that but my husband. Then user 3 commented and said, "I'm so glad that you're safe, OP. Do you have a restraining order against him? At best, I think he would get supervised visits." Yes, I do have a restraining order against him, especially because he is out on bail. And then finally, user 4 commented and said, "I never understood why people would bail out people like him." So his parents are very wealthy, and they bailed him out because he is their golden boy who can apparently do no wrong. Well, folks, so we have made it to the end, and unfortunately so, he was cheating with Emily. It's easy access when it comes to these things in regards to cheating. It's not somebody 3 towns over that you don't know. It's somebody that you know. Like he said, it was a coworker. Then it was Emily. Easy access. Then as for Jake, I'm going to give him a little bit of stink eye. He's still a victim in this situation, but I'm just like, bro, come on. But also, I mean, the husband lied to him and manipulated him. So you know what? I take back my stink eye, but like at the same time, he's not invited to my birthday party. But anyway, guys, we've made it to the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching, commenting, and have a good one.